Page number 5, open prayer book. Dong da dong je dan da war je dong me be de wa da me da war je nye ren ja da nye dan da ve da nyo
May all mother sentient beings, limitless as space, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they not be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as space, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they not be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. Page 6.
Ran jan jan zui zhen gen jor be zo ma le lo ye lan den ba la na de nye ro gua do je zon de zo da le lo je do bai jian jie dang bo gan jian jian zhe yuan de ma jie da de zong wei mo bo jie zhe dong bo jie dan zhe xie er xin jie lo Ngö da ngö men da le yon zhe xian jian ga ne zon zhou wan dai jie jie men zi len de ne lo men zhen zhou er san jie duo ma
An infinite array of worlds, each with 4 continents and the wealth of infinite oceans of realms, if I bring them all to mind and offer them without exception, please hold with compassion all the beings they contain, my body, enjoyments, and whatever I own, my aggregates, elements, and sense sources, my aspirations now and in times to come, as well as everything I grasp as mine. By offering them all, may I be blessed with the end of self-grasping, completely liberated from the bounds of real and unreal, transcending the names and attributes of arising, cessation, and abiding, coming and going, affirmation and denial. The supreme mandala is the natural state. When I offer it, bless me to attain the state of Buddhahood.
Page number 11. Zan bai dang lo ye jie dai jie dar war Jie Jiao De Ma De Ba Ye Jue Jiang Guo Lo Guo De Zo.
Oh, please turn the wheel of the Dharma of the lesser common vehicles according to the dispositions and mental capacities of sentient beings.
Khenchen Nyima Gyaltsen Gawa Drupon H.E Rinpoche Jiba Namrata Khenchen Chenlabje Chujun Jasu Chenpe Yendrase Meshe Manamja Chewa Yunwa Lunje Drupon Drupje Chema Mebe Lama Tamba Nangla Chan Sarjen Chudu Jebsan Chewa Chenchen Labran Chedu Su Dojin Changwan Delo Naro Tang Marmeta Padran Chedeng Garchen Samden Zawe Lame Shawa Zaju Lama yidam Jizong La Surwan Devso Daju Chenchen Lo Namo Nase Namda Ge Lama La Nase Jishin Sun Chebam Kapso Yandro Do Surwan De Kurwa Tondru So Chenchen Lo Jishin Ruwa Zoke Chen Masam Jime Jerwe To Chenpe Yishin Adan Zewe Dani Garchen Chen Ruwa Jimze Rinpoche Dasim Ni Jengane Surwan De Chuni Jengando Chenchen Lo Simdo Ne Jime Namdan Londe Chuka Dobra Chenchen Lo Chenchen Ada Dumba Zo Sanje Kandur Mungu Barden Lamarashir Tujiran Shen Tarbe Lamdam Yongze Shenye Namla Kajan Zar Lodan Lame Memje Wambo Dang Jorjin La So Chuje Chola Chewa Cheba Nam Sanje Sonra Rabdu Shijen Dewe Jujuru Dedan Cheche Tambe Chunyen Baryan Shekhe Namkada Nyambe Simche Tamche Tundu Tobja Lana Mebra Yang Tabra Zuba Sanje Kongpang Tamba Chine Jang Tabra Cha Ti Chedu Tene Tambe Chu Samung Nyensheng Tuen Nyamsu Lamara Jiwo Nyambe Tu Cheba Sardar De Sembra Shu.
Generating a motivation that brings to mind all mother sentient beings as vast as space is vast, and with the intention to place them all without exception in the unsurpassed state of completely perfected Buddhahood, then it's with that commitment that we can engage in the process of listening to the Dharma teachings with the intention to then also put those teachings into practice. So with that in mind, please generate the mind of awakening or bodhicitta.
Tene da kang shubar chewe ke da chude tene tamchu gongba chikbe ke shung o tende chi nyambarwa da tamchu gongba chikbe ke shung sedu zane tundu tene chaja chenpo da ngade ke nangla manduba o tende chi meba yimbare tene chaja chenpo ngade sedu zane tene tandande jenga shiram jone ke tende chi songdawa tene chedange da chakchenge nyamlen chaja chenpo sayate tene singetawu shires tene tendrege chaja chenpo ke chude nyamsu lembala tene lamji rimba ngadende chasangji ge tone nyamsu langba yina tene singe mik yeba nashin res mik yebe singe nashin tene tedawu da chaja chenpo lam nyamsu lembala ngadenge lamji rimba tawunde masangwa yina tene singe mik mebatan rawa yins o tende sungbara tendu sane tene lamji rimba yongsu zobate tene chu chaja chenpo da ngaden saya tinangla tene dundrugu yorowas.
And so, as the topic of the teaching has been these root verses or root statements of the Gong Chig, there's also no aspect of the fivefold path of Mahamudra that is not contained within these statements. So the entirety of the path, the fivefold path of Mahamudra, is complete within the Gong Chig. And as Chinga Sherab Jungne has said, the fivefold path of Mahamudra is like a lion. And the practice of the 5 stages, or the practice of the fivefold path, when all aspects of this, these progressive stages of the path are complete, becomes like eyes. So it is like a lion with eyes. So the practice endows the lion with eyes. And if though all of those aspects of the practice are not complete, then it becomes like a lion who does not have eyes or lacks eyes. And so in this way, the practice of the fivefold path is so crucial, and all of the stages in their entirety are also contained here within these pith instructions of the Gong Chig.
다 텐데오 드네 찾아 전부 ngaden 손도 자네 드네 땅 알아서 드네 땅 거르는 게 심진 지 인내 zonde 드네 녀몽바다 슈 최종게 제버지 용쓰기로 가시 시당 슈체와 가시 뇌차 슈체와 가시 나제 슈체와 단 타도 슈체와 드네게 슈 최종게 제버지 용게 요래데 이나야 자외게 드네 녀몽바 나차르데 여바 다 징송지 인도 자네 드네 텐데게 녀몽바 나보데 파 종와라 제발라 드네 람차자 전부 나데 스네 드네 점방아 텐데지 용게 요래스.
And so the fivefold path also corresponds with the 5 poisons to be purified in the minds of sentient beings. So as we are all, sentient beings in samsara, and we have all been afflicted from beginningless time by all the afflictive emotions, there's also a degree with respect to, those afflictions for each being. So for some, they may have a particularly strong propensity for anger, and for others, their main affliction may be desire, and for others, their main affliction may be pride or arrogance, while for others it might be jealousy. So in this way, all of each of the 5 stages of the fivefold path also correspond with or work to counteract each of the 5 poisons.
다 텐데 인도 자네 드네 ngaran choge 다 주게 시당 녀몽바 시당 바 종어라 제발라 드네 조고 다단데 잠년제 장주고 셈 땅아댕게 나네 림바 당보 들어와 데 인도 자네 다 잠바단 현재 장주고 셈 제네 semchen tamche ta ranye ge ji padang madang choge ndushi samlo chorwa tendeshi je yung de zane tene tela mengne shedang ge loje ya de da shu chungwa cha yung go ro wa tende yin de zane shedang ge nyambola changju ge sam gom ba sene tene nga de na thangbo de zo shedang ge nyambola sung ba tende ji res.
And so as that is the case, so the first of the fivefold path, which is meditating on love and compassion and generating bodhicitta, this then becomes the direct antidote for the afflictive emotion of anger. And so when bodhicitta arises in the mind stream, then the mind of anger diminishes and then dissolves. And so first by meditating on, for instance, one's parents, one's mother and father, one's friends and companions and loved ones, those that toward whom one feels a natural sense of love and appreciation, and then developing or nurturing that mind of love and compassion, and so on, then this directly works to diminish that propensity of anger by nurturing or cultivating the qualities of love.
Tane na jin chunga deng na ne niba yidam ge la ge nyamlen te zo tane thado ge nyimbola. Ta thado ge nyimbolan ro chun do karre sayeng du sane ngzo thado se du yen ge tane ji yenden la migne del magawe sam che yung du tan thado se ge ro ta sangha ge nyamlen ge kap su zo tane ji ta jerem ge la yin nen jur ge kam da ji nam tane rangge tane phongbonga jerwa ringa otena jendo jonganga yunga la soba ta tendegi penna pumpu wang ka kausu ngo tende chi te ne tene lam jerem tende chi gom yundu zane donna tene be simchen tamche ye ne tene tadande ta sanje ge ranshin yimba o tin anshin do tene ji jarwa renga ye ranshin yimba tende chi ge ngeshe ge thone yidam ge lagum be nyamlen de zo yundu zane tene ji chado chese ge yurmewa tamche tene sanje ge yunden yonchong yimba 산제게 연대 냠바 임바 어떤데지 또 연대자네 되네 람 제름 공발라서 봐다 텐조게 되네 조시를 가서는 차도게 참아도 되네 용용고 요레스.
And then the second of the fivefold path, which is meditation on the yidam deity, becomes the direct antidote to jealousy. And so jealousy has this quality of, looking at others and resenting what they have. So having a mind of dislike and resentment sort of qualifies that feeling of jealousy. And when practicing the path of secret mantra, and the generation stage in particular, then the yogi practices seeing all of the aggregates as the 5 Buddhas of the 5 Buddha families, and all of the elements as the 5 female Buddhas. And so, for instance, when in the context of empowerment, when we receive the base empowerment, we're receiving an introduction to this nature. And so through that, one comes to understand that all sentient beings primordially are Buddhas. And so as that is the case, they are all Buddhas, or whether we see them as Buddhas or the 5 possessing the qualities of the 5 Buddha families, there is a kind of certainty in that purity of their true nature that arises, and so as well as our own. And so there's more of a sense of equality in terms of the enlightened qualities that are inherent within both oneself and others. And so this serves to purify or diminish the affliction of jealousy.
Tene tena shen chunga denge tene sumba lamen nenjur. Ta lamen nenjur ge nyamlen ki tene zobo nyomomba ngaje. Ta ngajel se yundu zane soso rangi jula mikbe mikne. Ta ji yana yunden chenpo jing samba. Yana tene be langcho nzipo jing samba la soba. Ta tende chene soso ge jula yube langcho be namban zipo la soba. Ta tende ge samlo chi che yundu zane tene yen la ko che suyo ge lo tende chi che yunguru wa che de suyo ba che yunguru. Te yundu zane tene tatande ta lamen nenjur nyamsu len yundu zane jiri tene samchen tamche ge sam ge ju tang tene lame ge tu ju ji go tang rang ge sam la soba ta tenso tamche la tene chi chebar meba te yundu jasab chambang gombu ge tene ju lamen nang la chunyi deshin ni seya te tene pe yagi tene chi hlayu la che debe ge hla ne zong de magi nyarwa narmi la che denge ge simchen ge phala tene chechong che yang meba zangye che yang meba o tene chi re sna song yong do wa te indu zane ta tene che ne khandar chi dang tene nangchur ge thona samno tangwa ina pe chi nasi thamche de lame ge rorbala sharju yu ba tene song yong do wa ta lame ne jur nyamle yabu che yundu nasi thamche de ne lamala shar yong yu re o tene yin zang tene chi ngajer che sa chi dang ngaje chingken chi tene ge pe thome chembo chi yobran zimbe lo de do yong do zane tene lame ne jur ge zo ngaje ge ni bo tene sene cha yong yu re
So then, third, the practice of Guru Yoga, or the Four-Kaya Guru Yoga, becomes the antidote to pride. And so pride is the attitude in the mind that is kind of overly attached to whatever one perceives to be one's own qualities, thinking that oneself is superior to others, either in terms of whatever qualities, or maybe having, an attractive form or appearance, or, being really charismatic and thinking somehow, that one is above others. And so essentially pride is the attitude of superiority, which cherishes oneself and looks down on others. And so this guru yoga has the effect of diminishing the pride in that the mind streams of all sentient beings, the mind of the Lama, the Buddha and one's own mind are understood to be an indivisibility. And so as Lord Maitreya says in the Uttara Tantra, the absolute nature, the true nature that is the Tathagata Garbha, from the time of, being like all of the sentient beings in the peak of the God realms all the way down to the depths of hell, there is not a single being whether in positive or negative states that does not possess this pure essence. So there is that understanding of the fundamental equality of all things, of all beings, both Buddhas and sentient beings. And then also, as one's experience becomes more developed, then all appearance arises as the display of the Lama. All that appears and exists becomes like a teaching or display of the Lama. And so there is no longer any concept of like inferior and superior. This diminishes that pride, which sort of breaks into these concepts of superiority and inferiority. And so this is the way in which the Guru Yoga suppresses or works to purify the mind of pride.
다 찾아 전부 동행이 뭐 찾아 전부 송바로와 어때인도 텐제기 찾아 전부 개념len 되게 쪼고 가서나 녀모바 뜨무기 녀볼라 드네 차chen 공바 송용 거요래 어때인도 전에 가인선나 드네 당간주 뜨무 말이바 되니 드네지 빵마도 뜨무 말이바 되니 좀 마도 송아이나 드네 녀몽이 젠다 거기 자와는 매바지 차 두고요 말에 단제게 뜨무 대니 좀 송아이나 다른 영망바 현다양 거기 다야 레라와 고랑신게 다안로와 어떤데지 용거요레 대인도 전에 드네 자기 러변 아리안 대회 내지 송도와 변난가랑 저드네 매지기 르르 배샤와이나 다 왕보 나서야지 용거로와 르그 왕보 스도전에 왕보 째들에 지로와 되네 되나신 미기 왕보 나이 왕보 제 왕보 세야 되고 왕보 소소소소래 대인도 변나 미기 왕보 따오지 파 매바선에 톨라 당자바이나 왕보 신다 톨란 조기 말에 로와 톨란 조잉이 바요 말에 옛날야 르기 왕보 따오지 파 가송아이나 되네 왕보 신다 참마 고랑신게 가안로래 송바래 베티나신도 되네 뜨무데 파 다송아이나 되네 녀모 현탐쟁이 되네다 다안로래 해서나 송을 말해 대인도 전에 되네 조고 녀모바 뜨무기 녀볼라 되네 람 찾아 전부서 되네 송말해.
So then the fourth, which is the essence of the meaning, the ultimate meaning, Mahamudra, this works to specifically counteract ignorance or unawareness. And so ignorance, if one is able to overcome ignorance, then all of the other afflictive emotions no longer function. So it becomes very easy, when once ignorance is, through purifying ignorance, it becomes very easy to purify the other afflictive emotions. So the example that the great Indian master Arihiyadeva has given is that of the 5 faculties. So for instance, there's the overall kind of faculty of the body, and then there's the eye faculty, the ear faculty, the nose faculty, the tongue faculty, and so forth. If, for instance, the eye faculty is damaged, this doesn't affect the other faculties. The other faculties are still intact. However, if the faculty of the body is damaged or destroyed, then naturally all of the other faculties cease to function. So it also destroys the other faculties together with it. And so in the same way, if ignorance is purified, then all of the other afflictive emotions are likewise naturally purified. So this then occurs through the practice of Mahamudra, that ignorance specifically is uprooted.
Barwege kechik tene zongde mumpa thamche tene la rore songdowa ta mumpa tene meba chan rore songdowa tena chen yendo tene chaja chenbu nelu tobege tene marme tawute jula che che songa yenam tene thi tobji tene nyomamba timuk thamche tene ranjur dun ro yungu yusare tere te yendo zane chida timu marikpa sayande tene pechi neba cheshu samlo chik tang de zane pangkale khashu tande chi yimbare te indu jiten sumgong ge tan de Gong Chig ge ta sung chig nang la keba jenda ge sung de zane shedang de pe niba chimbore song yang zhawo de cha de niba chimbore song yang zhawo tande sung ge yore de juban jiten sumgong ge thuk sung ge nang ne tane niba chishu de temu ti sene song yang do wa tena shen do tane jiten sumgong yang Gong Chig tenje kabla kar songbar sana tanande ta nganso namjun korwe nalang kor yongdu zane tenje yanla jungni saya chig tone nganso siban khasong kowala kor yonggu yorwa ta ti che yongdu zane ji tenje yanla jungni saya gi ti jungni bode ji nganso samno hobde kala tang yongdu zane ko nuba chigba yimbe zonro ji rowa marik bagi marik begi lega che denken tene namshigi lega che yongken ta tenden zhawu chig ma do be ji korang zu jungni gi nangla ndi nyeba che ware ndi nyeba chong ware sene nganzo yoba chi samlo tangi yo mare ta ngune che yongdu zane choban je den songgo kare songbare sanam tende yenla jungni gi nane ta zawan zhawu dang tamche la be ji neba che denken de ta zawan marik ba de yin songdo wa pena marikpa de khanchen rawo chire sondo zane nganzo tachi tenje yenla chungni bode ta chukchi ro marikpa khora ma thebe chukchi yodu di chukchi bode thangbo yongya la yang juche yong yore tenje yenla jen cheya la yang juche yong yore thangbo chewa la juche ba tenje yenla jen da jen che yong du zane te marikpa ge juche be kone che yong ro tene pardu tende yenla chungni botenso juma chebang koreala choche yong yore techi du zane tene tende yenla chungni ge nane marik bade tene tende yenla shen tamche la chapde baji pena nganzo tene tadande re chenbo chigla tene chogi lumba suja batawu chi redu yorwa ta re pe chenbo chig chogi lumba suja yona tadi chul lumba de 레데기 초 탐제라고 차도 요로와 디나신 전에 근데 자와 때무 말이 봐 써야 돼 텐제 인라 다시 탐제라 되네 차대 바지 인도잖아요 근데 간소 코로와라 진 코로를 집에게 주요 쪼어데 다 때무 말이 봐 써야 대자 연구 있어래
So also as the great Tilopa says in the Ganges Mahamudra, that even if a cavern has remained dark for many eons, by the lighting of a single lamp, that entire space becomes illuminated in a single moment. Instantaneously, all of the darkness is cleared away, regardless of for however long it has remained dark. So in a single moment of illumination, all becomes clear. And so it is with the realization of the true nature of Mahamudra, the radiance of the lamp or butter lamp of Mahamudra illuminates the mind and uproots all of the darkness of ignorance. And so ignorance is really the most powerful of all the afflictive emotions. It is also perhaps the most difficult to uproot or to overcome. Lord Jigten Sumgön says in another place in the Gong Chig that while others consider, other masters or learned scholars consider either perhaps anger to be the most problematic or the worst of the afflictions, and others consider desire or craving to be the worst or the source. Lord Jigten Sumgön says that of the three poisons, the worst is ignorance, or that which is most most afflictive is the affliction of ignorance. And so in, for instance, the 12 links of dependent origination, it is through the cycling of these 12 links that beings remain caught in samsara. And so it is ignorance. So there tend to be thought of in terms of the 12 links as each kind of serving their own function and being kind of each of the 12 links being equally regarded as far as their function. Like there's the function of ignorance, which then gives rise to the function of consciousness, which has its function, which gives rise to the next, and so on and so forth. And that each of them are kind of equally regarded as the causes that keep us bound in cyclic existence. But Lord Jigten Sumgön says that the root and that which gives power to all of the 12 links is that root or that fundamental link of ignorance. So it is dependent upon ignorance that all of the other 11 links function. And so the ignorance becomes the cause, and also it becomes the companion throughout the process of all of the other links. It's there together with each of them. And so ignorance pervades all of the 12 links of dependent origination. So Khenchen Rinpoche said it's like a large cloth. If you have a large cloth and you wet that cloth, and then the wetness travels throughout the entire cloth and penetrates or moistens or pervades the whole cloth. And so it is with the link of ignorance, that ignorance is both the cause and the sort of a companion that assists the functioning of all the other links.
Tende indu tene namju nganzo tachi jedam dripa sayatela iyawan tamanda mangbochi yungurwa dripa sayatela pena lej dripas tene chi so jiba la so batun su leg dripa tene tena jindu ndo chada shedang timu rakpatun su lo nyombe dripa sayando tape tene tawe ge kabla shije dripa soyando ta tende ge dripe ge iyawa mangbochi yungurwa Rede tene choban jinen songo kara songbarasana tendege depe namsha kaseji yewa chewa inaya de tamche de tsuru du yondu zane tene tsawa de temu marikpa saya nyomba marikpa saya tenala tenen do yungre songbarwa tendu ta marikpa saya te dreba thamche ki chawa tene chi cha yungare te chedu chane ta chi dreba tenzo pungchur go thona sanu tong yung de chane yang tene jedan namjun ji songdang jiyong go wando che yung de chane ta chi yang panya le lao te leg dreba te panya le lao ngala pangu re soyan ro 시제 제바 방야데 베 갈레카보 인든 줄로 방고레 소야다 텐데 남주 개바 남주 송소를 여대 바래 이나야한테 저번제된 송고 가르 송바르스나 땅아랑 쪽에 되네지 갑대 짤 고사 당분이네 되네 즉 돈항 제고사 당분이네 간수 님보된 고사 엄마데 가르스나 되네 시제 제바 인 송도와 다티 인도 제단 되네지 녀몬베 제바다 시제 제바사야 늦올라 남주 yung xebe kabla yung gab tende la ta ji tenso nang la des ji song ta mandawa tende yung ge de tanda ngarang zo ta ji menga ge lu se go nan da ndre ge won do che yung du zan ne tene pe che nyomong be de ba da shi je de ba song du zan ne ji nang zo pe na chirul ge yul la pa ta ne ta ji cha dang o cha do ndren sam la so ba je de ba tende de wo ji la 조보테네 녀몽베 드바 송구여서레 삼성요레 치르르게 율로 방조 셈따네 ndcha 제와 셰당 제와 띠묵 제와 다 치르르게 율기 내줄테 야부지 통화를 제발라 듬켄지 유로와 치르르게 율기 내줄 야부 또버 제발라 듬켄 텐데게 드바텔라 녀몽베 드바스 다 시제 드바세 연두자네 나랑조 소속의 섬게 내루라 수를 집어친게 섬게 내루라 수를 다내지 따와라 개친게 텐데게 집어텔라 근데 저 시제 집어 송셔봤다고 텐데지 유여들에 대인도 냠이 감보백에 송지게 나라 근데 가르스나 다저 나랑 쪽에 당보 공내 지 섬게 내루라 듬ken기 집어텔라 되는 간소지 님보지 때 갑대지 잘 마토바이나 근데 또바줄에 제기 말해 송도와
So dampo semgi nelo.
텐도 섬게 내루라 듬ken기 집어텔라 님보지 때네 갑대지 봐 마안로지 마 잡마토바이나 근데 또바줄에 제기 말해 송바래 오 텐데 송연도 자네 근데 양지 가지고 전에 송솔라 배체드네 나랑서 섬게 내루라 따티 또야 갈레카보 임바 또야 갈레카보 가르치는 차송아래 생도자네 마릭바슈 체타고 좀 생고네 또 갈레카보 차송아로와 근데 인도 다 대대고 드네 마릭바 대니라 드네지 님보 당보건에 땡네 빵저를 송고바 인도자네 드네 제된 송고 공책이 나라 시제제바 당보 빵고래 송야 오다 텐데기 송텐데야 용기여와 텐데 인도 다 강다리야 촌돌 되바이나 때네 때목이 님볼라 때네 람 찾아 전부 공바 아세야 되래
And so there are many different ways in which the different obscurations are categorized. So, we speak of, for instance, the obscurations of karma and afflictive emotions. The obscurations of afflictive emotions, for instance, being all of the various manifestations of afflicted mind states, desire, anger, and so on. And then there are the more subtle obscurations, which are referred to often as the cognitive obscurations. And there are also different ways of kind of speaking about or categorizing the different types of obscurations. But all of the obscurations in their entirety kind of fall into the root of ignorance. Although ignorance is... So it's both the source of the afflictive emotions, and it's also the source of the more subtle obscurations, which are the cognitive obscurations. The typical way that it is thought of that purification occurs is that first, the more coarse level obscurations are purified. And then once those coarse level obscurations are purified, it is only then that then the subtle obscurations are purified. So first, gradually the the obscurations of karma and afflictive emotions are gradually purified, and then the cognitive obscurations are little by little, are gradually purified. But Lord Jigten Sumgön is unique in saying that first, actually, it is the cognitive obscurations that are to be purified. So first, to rely on the antidote to the cognitive obscurations can come first. So there are many different kind of, a lot of explanation and detail that can be gone into in discussing the nature of these two types of obscurations, the obscurations of afflictive emotions and cognitive obscurations. For instance, in the Parchen Dang Gare Parchen Dang Uma Dang Parchen La Sungyure
Uma da Parchen Ta Chi Nyuma Gyaltsen na Shije Deba Ngunze Shitan Tamana Mangbo Yore Rwa.
So there are a lot in both the, so like in the tradition of Madhyamaka and also in the transcendent perfection of wisdom, a lot of ways in which it describes, just how it is and what is the process of purification in stages and how it occurs in terms of these two levels of obscuration. But in the tradition of pith instruction, we can think of it in a simplified way, that the obscurations of afflictive emotions are those obscurations are kind of that veil of delusion, which it makes it prevents one from realizing objects how they actually are in their true nature. And so therefore, because of that obscuration that colors the way we perceive objects or outer reality, then there is the response or the reaction of the afflictive emotion. So we respond because of that distortion with attachment and aversion, jealousy, competitiveness, desire, anger, and so on. Whereas the cognitive obscurations can be understood as being that which obscures or veils one from understanding the true nature of the mind within. So it is the one that veils or obscures the true nature of awareness. And so the peerless Gampopa has said, mainly, one should rely on the antidote that counteracts this obscuration to recognizing the true nature of awareness. As long as that is not applied, that antidote is not applied, then it will be impossible for true realization to arise. So as is taught in the Kagyu tradition, it is through realizing the true nature of mind that through that ignorance is uprooted. If that does not occur, if that ignorance is not uprooted, then it is very difficult for any genuine realization to arise. So first here, Jigten Sumgön's instruction is to attend to that root of ignorance, to uprooting the initial cause, and therefore the first purifying the cognitive obscurations. And this is done through in the fivefold path of Mahamudra. The practice of Mahamudra becomes the direct antidote to ignorance.
Tene tenajin ta chaja chembu nga dengin nga ba tene mowa se ta te tene ta dande ta zo tene de chaga nyembo tan de chaga nyembo lan rosul no karre seng du zane nganzo tene chida cha shenpa jese ge yur tan ramara mangboro wa rede ina zu chewa de tan kasana lu longju geza sa tisum de imbare ngarang so ge lu la cha shengere longju la cha shen ge yore tene gewe zawa la cha shen ge yore da kesi chu chingen ji na yang samsam지 nga gewa dugi nga gewa san nge gewa san da tende chene kandar 직 차시 생연도 전에 배체되네 tensopa yenda nyamdo tumundu chetoya des kale kabo yorwa nge lunde yena pa tonya kale kabo yimba ta legu tangurwa dina shendu longju de ludong chetoya kale kabo yimba tene ji sosu gewa ji saba ina di gewa de ngarang la pember sho senayanda da yana ngarang da rewege ta ji robo romo ni tensola je pember sho samyama dobe 심chen 탐체라 페나 samyagi lu동데 데스 제토야 깔레 카보로와 어 텐데 인도 전에 먼저 섬게 차바제세게다 유르조 텐데 숨 차용 거래 다 단단 간조 뭐와 제인도 전에 텐데 소수 사베 게와 탐체에 가상 공도 쉬바 난신 텐데 베지 남카다 냠베 심chen 탐체라 텐데 풀연도 전에 텐데 대왕게 텐데 간조 줄여여변 되차게 님볼라 로토 용거 유로와 어 텐데 인상
So then the fifth of the fivefold path, which is dedication, this becomes the direct antidote to desire. So desire is defined by the fixation and attachment that we have to all sorts of things that we attribute to the self, or oneself and one's possessions. And so there are many different ways in which desire manifests, but primarily there are three things that we are particularly attached to. And those are our body, our wealth and possessions, and our roots of virtue. So there is extremely strong attachment to the body, as well as one's own material objects and possessions. And for practitioners, roots of virtue, thinking, if one identifies as a Dharma practitioner, and one thinks, this is my virtue, my practice, my wholesome practice as I progress on the path. And so when it comes to the body, it's extremely difficult to actually sacrifice or give up the body, for instance, for the benefit of others. And when it comes to wealth and possessions, there's a lot of fixation there for oneself, or it is limited to wanting to just share with those friends and companions or people that you like, loved ones, and not so much when it comes to really indiscriminately giving just with a pure heart of generosity to all sentient beings. That is much more difficult. So in any case, we have these kind of three fundamental levels of attachment or desire are kind of bound up in these three. And dedication, the practice of dedication becomes the antidote to that through the mind of generosity. So for instance, when we discussed before, taking all of the virtues of oneself and all sentient beings and dedicating them, releasing them all, and dedicating them out to all sentient beings as equal to the limits of space, then this kind of a vast mind of dedication and generosity becomes the antidote to desire.
근데 다 인도산에 근데 람사모다 찾아서 ngaden 소모로와 다 텐제기 되는가보테 되는 거랑서다 지 공치기 용되긴 하나마 땡용도 산에 제단 제바이나 제단 제나 다지 공치기 촘르레 나나야 ngaden 송용구요레 좀 레레자 마세 되네 dorson 레레 나나양 되네 제 나댕게 돼 가시 응으소 송바 가시 슈러 송바 가시 준 송바 어떤데 차 용거요래
가시
응으소 송바 가시 슈러 송바 가시 준에 송바 좋아 태가 응으소 찌게 송거요래 가시 응으소 마송에 슈러 송샤바 베나타단디 난존디 가생 따웬 조주로 또 받았던 바 송도와 따따웬 조주로 또 받았던 바 송도산에 무수 찾아 전부 또 봐송에 슈라 장주 생거 또봐 yidam 라이 또봐 송도와 다양 주인의 간에 송에서는 오다 찾아 전부 또봐 양 다바지 줄라 제발 제발라 주 가르고래 세두산에 줄라메게 무구고 요래 대나전도 yidam 라이 냠랭고 요래 장초게 섬환던 로고래 세고 슈라 tensogu jotan soya shusego ta jubegone tene jotan soya tengo yoro o tende yendu tene ngu shu ju sum segdela ta tende ge tone dorson rere ke yang sung chu yoro ta yina yang zu chewe wando che yendu zane tene yang ji ba nga den dang Gong Chig ge chom dumbo te peche jarwa yina den tanda wonen ge shu yins.
So then, as far as how the fivefold path exists within or relates to the root statements or verses of the Gong Chig, so actually the each of the 5 stages of the fivefold path are there; they're complete actually in each Vajra statement. So they can be seen as being complete, like in the entire body of the text, like overall, and then also as being present within each statement. And even though it may not be explicitly so there are some where they are directly present in the Vajra statement. In some cases, it is that they are kind of indirectly present in the Vajra statement. In some cases, they are there, for instance, through the kind of identifying the cause. And so to explain, for instance, the way in which it may be indirectly present is, for instance, with one of the statements, that the statement that came above, that supreme realization dine tokpa chok kare de gongda chod kare re
dawen chojuru tobata demba songwa
that the supreme view is that which is endowed with realization, and so that implies directly Mahamudra. But then also within that is necessary, for instance, bodhicitta, as well as the practice of the yidam deity. Whereas that statement, the way that statement also indicates the cause is that, or through the way in which it is also present there as the cause, is that what is the cause to giving rise to the realization of Mahamudra? It is each of these other aspects of the fivefold path. So there has to be the direct cause, for instance, is devotion to the Guru. But you also needed, as the cause to produce that realization, is bodhicitta, as well as the practice of the yidam deity, and so on and so forth. Then he Dorsung rere la sumga sang yorbe.
Dorsung rere nang la yang. Tene chaja chimbo nga den chasang tengi yores. Kashi nguyusu tengi yore. Kashi shula tengi yore. Kashi jubeto ne tengi yores.
And so in this way, each of the statements, each of the 5 stages of the fivefold path are complete in each Vajra statement. The way that they are complete varies, it's one of these 3 ways, either through like directly or indirectly or by virtue of the cause.
다 있는 양들은 양 저 체외 원도 체인도 안에 Tene penna Gong Chig la chom dön yorwa. Tende ki Gong Chig ki chom dönbo tegi yang soso gi tene nga den nane kare tengre se ya chik se de zane tene nganzo tandandi chom jiba. Ta nganzo tara ngarang chog pechu che ga zawan di tono sano tana chom jiba rwa. Chom jiba de chanchu sem ge chom re. Tegi nga den nane chanchu ge sem te song yung gu yore. Tene chom nga ba de sangha ge chom re. Indu di nane zowo nga den yidam ge lai nyamne song yung yore. Tene tena jendo chom Drupa dagum jube chom re. Tendege dagum jube chom tegi zowo lamen nenjuru song yung yore. Nga den ge nane chena lamen nenjuru. Tene tena jendo chom tangbo chunkurwa. Tene chom niba denre re. Indu tene tenso nigi tene zowo karsana chaja chenpo nga den song yung yore. Som tangbo tang niba nigi nga den ge nane chakchen song yung yore. Tene som dumba deus ge som tegi tene zowo ngowa song yung yore. Kain sana chedang ngowa ki miyulan dramada yu chogre de 얘네 오늘긴 뭐왕 타르토베기 무유르데 다네 남친 산지게 공방 톱네 다네 둘째 전던도 틀레준 메체바 용야데 다 무유르 타르토바데 임바레 제원 타르토바데 덴데기 제원 타르토바데 줍톱다 마투세야데 뭐와라 라레기 이바레 데인도산에 제우가 첨데 다네 뭐와 템바레 다 좀 딜하서 좀 숨발하서 들외 좀 들외 숨데 좀데 나데 차창 게테네 기스르다 봉데 이 숨바레 디 나나야 라브르도 데네 라곰바 상하당 제렘 yidam 라곰바당 라멘 nenjur 곰바당 데네 차자 다 제단 나데 창매에게 기술 본도 임바 제로와 들어와대 되니 믹스에게 라멘 nenjur게 냠네 당직 라이 yidam게 냠네 니 되니 차자 첨부 공배 냠네 디숨 되게 딱 기술도 본도인데 조보드네 주름대 송거를 오텐데 인도산에 따뜻하고 전에 되는 가대 나다 공직이 좀 된데 도술된데 지레스.
And so then there's the way in which the fivefold path of Mahamudra corresponds with the entire body of the text according to the different categories of the Gong Chig, or the 7 chapters. So each of the 7 chapters corresponds with, or in some cases 2 of them, with each of the stages of the fivefold path. So the 4th chapter, which is on, really deals with bodhicitta, or the bodhisattva vows. This, of course, corresponds with the first of the fivefold path, which is bodhicitta, or the special mundo of love, compassion, and bodhicitta. And then the 5th chapter, which is mainly dealing with the vital point of the secret mantra vows. This then corresponds with the 2nd of the fivefold path of Mahamudra, which is the practice of the yidam deity. And then the 6th chapter, which deals with the view, meditation, and conduct. This corresponds with the 3rd of the fivefold path of Mahamudra, which is the 4-kaya guru yoga. And then the 1st chapter of the Gong Chig, which is really dealing with the turnings, the 3 turnings, or the 3 turnings of the wheel of Dharma. And the 2nd chapter, which is dealing primarily with dependent origination. Both of these correspond with the 4th of the fivefold path of Mahamudra, which is Mahamudra. And then the 7th chapter, which is the fruition, corresponds with the 5th of the fivefold path, which is dedication. And the way in which it corresponds with dedication is that even though there are many different objects toward which, objects of dedication that one might have, there is kind of the highest level objective, which is the ultimate goal of liberation and full awakening, completely perfected Buddhahood or omniscience. And so with that objective in mind, or with that fruition, then that brings about the ultimate benefit of all sentient beings. It serves the purpose of benefiting those beings to be tamed. And so whether or not that can be achieved is dependent upon the dedication. So it is the dedication that leads to the fruition. And then the final, there's still one chapter of the Gong Chig that is missing, which is the 3rd chapter on dealing primarily with the vows of individual liberation or pratimoksha. And that serves to clear away the obstacles and strayings throughout all of the 5 stages of the fivefold path of Mahamudra. So essentially, like pure conduct or pure discipline serves to protect the practice of all 5 paths, of all stages of the path. And so all of them, it functions in such a way that all 5 together, the obscurations and potential strayings are cleared away through the maintaining of the vows of individual liberation. But in particular, the obstacles and potential strayings are cleared away in the context of Guru Yoga, the 4 Kaya Guru Yoga, Yidam, and Mahamudra. So in particular, these it serves or functions to protect or clear away obstacles with regard to these 3.
Ta te devu tene ta yung gongpa chigwa ta te nane nganzu tene tsom chukpa shubar chebe kabrawa ta tsom chukpe nane tene kasen nganzu dorsong chubdenba yinche de shu simba o te ta tere dorsong chubje pa ne shubar chebe kabindu zane chubje pa toba da tenpa la yang tablam wa
And so picking up now with the actual Dorjee statements where we left off yesterday, was in the discussion of the 17th statement of the 6th chapter. And so then today we start with the 18th statement, the 6th chapter, which is, even for someone who has realization, the path of methods is especially necessary.
다지 줌 마체와드네 쫑고 요레스 다티 쫑고베기 줌 센도데 가르차용 그래 센도자네 제당 안조되네 산제 다티와 쳔부 태과 쳔부 상하데 제반 냠술랭 캥기 간사제기 원도 제반이나 무유르 쪼고데 가르사나 라니 산제기 공방 토야데 무유르 쪼고 말해 워낙 가르에서나 옌던 틀레ンポスム소관 드야데 무유르 쪼고래 로와 산제기 소소 산제기 공방 토야데 무유르 쪼고 마임바체로와 무유르 쪼고 가르사나 옌던 틀레ンポスム소관 용야데 무유르 쪼고래 대인도 간소 산제 최단 초진 초능서 로인도 자네 죽드나 송다와 롤라 펜셀 산제 드버쇼 송다와 롤라 펜셀을 송다와 간소 산제 그 공방 가르치는 도구로서나 롤라 펜베치도 송다와 대인도 자네 무유로 쪼오데 롤라 펜바데레 근데 인도 자네 롤라 펜바테 제단한테 산제기 꾸이왕도 제바이남 추구대 조 란덤 포송 서버고 송거래 추지고들 란덤 포송 서버고 tane zug jiko te jendön posung sobo ko songöre jendön posung sobo ko ta chidang ko sombo te ta te ba tane chidang mare te yena ya chashe ne sanu tang yonde zane tane chugo de la tang zo sanje de tönyin posung sobo re songöre wa sanje de rangdön da jendön nigang posung sobo jire de yonde zane chugo ge chane rangdön posung sobo cha yong yore zugu기 전에 연동 보송 소바 차인 거요로와 다 텐데기 추구단 zugu스는 이윤도 전에 다지 나랑조 섬거란신 대버리시베 냥볼라 딱고 이에네 뭐지 구숨 돈절메베 수지고는 유도 요래데 이나야 로르게 테메 데비온도 전에 구숨게 젤레데 먼저 응원하고요 말로와 변나님아 timbe 데베 거서 님에게 레가도 응원하고만도와 티난신 텐데 인도 전에 다 딥지기 드바데파 살고 요래 딥지기 드바 살라 제발라 초니데 사고 용고요와 데 인도 전에 테네 로본 루드브기 단다 우마른 진정와서 테네나 가르송바르스남 계제손 돌드니 쇼바이나 이시기 초라데네 산지 추구데 응원도 체계레스 소놈게 초라데네 산지 zugude ngon도 제고래 송바래 텐데 인도자네 다 zugungon도 저거 제발라 탑 소놈게 초데 고요래 텐데 인도자네 다네 탑람 추루라 소바당 대난신도 다 탑기냠네 텐소데 저 체원다고 다 지 소놈게 초게 차나 송인도자네 또댕게 nenjuru batende 지나야 다동 테네 촌인 타르친 거바 인자 테네 탑람 텐소라 랍고래서야 대송바래
So with regard to this statement, so sometimes it is said that for somebody who has a really developed realization of Mahamudra, then they don't have to adhere so much to, for instance, the conduct of the 16 methods or practices of skillful means, and they don't have to apply themselves so much any longer in the virtuous or wholesome activities of body, speech, and mind. Instead, they must just continue or sustain the recognition of the view. That becomes like the single conduct is remaining within the unbroken continuity of the recognition of the view. But Lord Jigten Sumgön says that it doesn't matter how elevated one's view or realization might be, even if it is a yogi who possesses like the king of views, they still have to continue with the various practices or methods of skillful means. And the reason for this is because the objective of a practitioner of secret mantra Vajrayana is actually not so much to accomplish one's own awakening or to reach Buddhahood oneself. So it is not to accomplish one's own objective so much as it is to accomplish the objective and benefit of others through developing or manifesting an abundance of enlightened activity. So the objective is really the production of enlightened activity for the welfare and benefit of others. And so, for instance, in the refuge prayer that we recite, the last line says, "May I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings." So that final statement, that it is for the benefit of all sentient beings. And in reaching the fruition of Buddhahood, the benefit is twofold. So the Dharmakaya naturally accomplishes one's own benefit. So this is the kaya in which one's own purpose or one's own benefit it becomes fully manifest. And the Rupa Kaya, or the two form kayas, produce an abundance of benefit for others. So that the Rupa Kaya is what accomplishes the welfare and benefit of beings. And these, of course, are not separate. They are an indivisibility. So the fruition of Buddhahood, in which the three kayas are complete, naturally brings about the ultimate welfare and benefit of both self and others through the activity of the Dharmakaya and the Rupakaya. And these qualities of the Dharmakaya and Rupakaya are present as the intrinsic qualities or the nature of the Tathagata Garbha, or the Buddha nature, but because this isn't accessible, those qualities aren't accessible because of the presence of temporary obscurations. And so it just like the example that was given the other day of the sun being covered with clouds. So as long as the sun is obstructed by clouds, we can't see the full radiance and kind of the full glory of the sun. So we have to clear away the clouds. And the way to clear away the clouds is through the gathering of the two accumulations. Nagarjuna says in the garland of Madhyamaka, the precious garland of Madhyamaka, that the Dharmakaya is achieved through the accumulation of wisdom, and it is the Rupakaya that is achieved through the accumulation of merit. And so in that way, again, we come back to the necessity of the two accumulations all the way through the entirety of the path. And so since the Rupakaya is contingent upon merit, and since that is our ultimate goal, is the Rupakaya to enact or to produce or to bring about the benefit of others through enlightened activity, then it is necessary all the way through the entirety of the path, regardless of the level of realization, to attend to skillful means through the 16 methods or practices of method or skillful means, and all of the other methods for gathering the two accumulations. So even a really highly realized yogi who abides within the understanding of emptiness still has to rely on the conduct of skillful method.
Tende indu tene Drupon berwapage Drupon tene tohaji yuri toha berwa munachina nganzu namjoen tam berwapa sagirwa tensan peche berwa virupa sagmade waya dan changma bo chu denkende 와야 다 공기 되네 도하지 되네 가르송 벌서남 되네 도dengi nenjurpa tapeji chaja chimbu zorimge toba 대양 되는 세미 조름게 또봐 초도 줄반 예den게 된대게 난줄반 남자양 되네 쥐초게 냠래 난고래 송도와 쥐배게 초 따와다 쥐바스 니용그로와 된도 쥐배게 초 대난신도 탑람 따탄다 또모 곰바당 라소바다 된대 게 냠래라더니 쫑고 요레스 그세 된대게 냠래라 마좀바이나 베나 잔도 지나 쇼바 니dengi 차나진 차투 말에 송도 대난신 신단도 지는 홀로 니dengi 신다다고 지 차투 말에 스테인드산에 되는 쇼바 니dengi 자당 홀로 니dengi 되는 신다다고 지 차고 윤두산에 도dengi nen줄 같은 소개야 되는 탑 쥐배기 되는 냠래라 답배지 신도내서 자칭부전에 냠래 난고래 스테송 말에 되는 대난신 다동 가르송 말에서는 된대 인도 아직 오늘 또반 초도 주반 년에 산지기 공방 토비아라 레와 주네 맹 무고와지 또반 초도 주반 니 송화 인자 된대게 레와 마고바이나양 다동 개와 차시 차와는 주고레스 대진도 망 코로발라 홍로야게 도바 때네 메바이나양 다동 코로발마 롱로그레 낸송마 롱로그레 섬에 도바고 말와 도반 초도 주반 예잖아 마고바이나야 다도 메게와 차시 차와는 빵고레 스테송도와 지단 디송데 남주 제주 멜레송양레 제주 멜라게드네 감보발양 대송바로와 단다 타마데 산제 토야라 레와 마고바이나야 게와 참무 두고레스 산제 토야라 레와 메나양 개와 참무 두고르스 레와 먹어봐야나요. 다 레와 메나스도 때 시간사다와. 되네 코로발라 송야가 도바 매봐야나요. 디바 참원에 되는 잠고래 송야 책지다와. 디 책데 지다 남주 제주 멜레 감보발라 송바양레. 되네 대 야야 산노타운도 되네 되네 주신 미르베게 되네 도하나라. 어떻게 송용도와 대인도다 텐소당 단단되네 또 된라야 탑람 라버 고그레 소야단서 단다 찍든 바고에서래.
So then there was the Mahasiddha Virupa is known for having said, even a highly realized yogi or like the ultimate of Mahasiddhas who remains in the unbroken continuity of the perfection of the completion stage, still has to attend to the practice of conduct. So it is not within the view, meditation, and conduct. So it is not just the view that is held as most important at this time, but also still one has to exert or apply oneself in conduct in the various methods of skill, also through the various methods of skillful means, such as the practice of tumo and so forth. And so if one doesn't have the practice of skillful means, then it becomes like a bird that is missing a wing. So a bird, in order to fly, has to have both wings intact. Or it is like a field plow or a horse plow that has only one wheel, so that is missing a wheel. So in order for that plow to function, both wheels have to be turning or have to be intact. And so even somebody at the highest level of realization still has to attend in an ongoing way to both of the two accumulations. Even someone who is at this kind of pinnacle of experience and realization, who may have no hope of attaining Buddhahood, or is beyond, the hope of attaining Buddhahood, still they pay like the most detailed attention to actions of virtue and non-virtue, in their subtlest, most subtle of forms. Even somebody who doesn't have any fear, like of falling to the lower realms, still attends to the workings of karma, cause, and effect in their most subtle manifestations. So one is extremely cautious when it comes to conduct with regard to phenomena, with regard to karmic interdependence. And these were also the final words that Milarepa gave to Gampopa, that even if you do not hope for Buddhahood, even when you are beyond, hoping for Buddhahood, still you should pay attention to the most subtlest of causes in terms of the most subtle details of karma, cause, and effect. And even if there is no fear of being, being caught in the prison of cyclic existence, still one attends to the most subtle of manifestations of conduct. So in this way, this is also supported both here in the example of the great Mahasiddha Virupa and also in what Milarepa said to Gampopa.
다테네 드루송 줄구바 리주 체든 파바 추첨이 송도와 리바 뚜르주기 쥐바 약쇼데 테네 추첨이 송야 다테레 단대야 저 가르레스나 ten namjoy ngarang sota chi kaju ki lam ge rimba song de zane ro kaju ge lam rim thela tene chechi tu de rochi gome sene tene nenjuri she sene song ro ta tanzo ya chida namjoy pa chi salam la pa jar yong de zane ta test sen rawon raw chi jar yong de zane chechi se ya de cholam da jolam gi nek ke to ba ten so la song ro Nyamoma Rapa, Gorma, Nandeva Kabla. O Tsechekin Nanjurus. Then in Tonlam Satang Botovian Duzani, Judekin Nanjurus. Then is Sajeba Tovian Duzan. Tonlam Satang Botovian Duzani, Judekin Nanjurus. Then is Sajebeg Toba Julachi Duzani, Rochik Tobas. Then in Tartu Sanjeg Sato Duzana, Gomi Chembos and Oda and the Sungurua. Ajinan tensola ya rerelan ya sumre sir mambo sonya da ta ina te mese shumogo che tende indu kandar ta ji nenjur je se ya de salmana pa rob ji janu de tende chine soyong do wa ta de de nenjur je to ba te ya konne kondo tene ji pon de bar che bala kargore su du zane pon de ge je ba se ge ro wa pon de be je ba se ge ro wa je ba je lam po ndembar chebe jeba jeba la chida pongdong ge jeba so jeba changma la pongdong ge jeba se re 가르 본 던 거라서나 다 nenjuri시게 냠nen데 야 본 던버 제발라 쥐바 구요래 근데 인도 전에 때네 근데게 쥐바 대야 야지 간주 만주 전에 되게서 말해 쥐바데 뒤수된 저 가지고 그래 송도와 벤나테네 제지기 또바 쥐라 제베 값수 대본 던버 제베 쥐바 대라 근데 저부쇼노 그 쥐바 송바래 다 저부쇼노 쥐바서도 전에 저부지기 저세 부춘충 지유나 Tipu chonchon de maon palape jarpo lobjon yonken jarpo pe kuzuk detang yonken ji zogu yona tene pu chonchon kamne yang koge sedang julam la so 탐체 de korangi nypadang tumbaje ge ya dabu jabgu ro o tinan shen chene tene zeji ge doba jula je yondu yang ji jeba dedan tumbaje go yor ma do be yang jeban tombo den de jeja는 되게서 말해 pena tungkor nangande songdawa le thangbopagi nenjurbe jeba cheyayo mares nenjurbagi trupthoge jeba cheyayo mares 그래서 trupthoge sanjege jeba cheyayo mares tendu zane koji jebade 소소기 똑배기 퇴수된 저와지 고유사래 그래서 도전도 맞지 고요래. 인도 tani zechi ya yarje tongwar chebe ki choba tela jarbu jonu ki chobas tani today ya kumbal to tongwar chebe ki choba tela tani sangha ki chobas tan ne wembala mesuji ga hamo wa chen tani nyamne chego yore sangha ki chobas tani tadandi ta rochi ki toba jule che yundu zane tani rikpa turju ki chobas ya chi songyong yoro tani tadandi gomegi toba jula cheendu zane tani kundu sangbu choba sta tendegi choba ye songyong yurwa ta tandandi dorsongde tani tadandi rochi gi kapgi choba tani tanda ripotur jugu choba saya ta ti korgi keja yimbare tandandi tsawegi tsingde gyurgu pande tani rochi ki topaya kumbel tonya ki chobaji dawa
ti tampo de kyapo ki se ki chubare samsam marebe ti tampo de
te tsechi ki ruwa tangbo de tsechi ki chobarwa
ya
nipa de tude ki chobarwa ta sumba tandan de ripa turju ki choba seji dawa te rochi ki topaya pongdong ki chobatere ndisona ripa turju ki choba seya
oh roche yeah seche mare
tenza nanzo tandandi Gong Chig ki tsawe nangi tene chobande ta tsowo karsan rochi ki topa pongdong ki tene choba dikola kamo nangi yore
la sola na go tomsong roche dan seche so this Vajra statement is really addressing what is mentioned, or spoken of in the context of the various stages of development of realization according to the progressive stages of the path for the Kagyu traditions. These stages of development being the stages of the 4 yogas. So the 4 yogas also correspond to the periods or stages of traversing the 5 paths and the 10 bhumis. So first, the first yoga, which is the yoga of one-pointedness, it corresponds, this is what occurs at the stages, or it corresponds with the first 2 paths, the first 2 of the 5 paths prior to the first bhumi, the path of accumulation and the path of joining. So this is what is developed at the time when one is still working to purify or subdue the coarse afflictive emotions. And then when the first bhumi, which also corresponds with the path of seeing, is reached, this corresponds with the second of the 4 yogas, which is the yoga of non-elaboration. And then the 8th bhumi, this then corresponds with the yoga of one taste. And then the final bhumi, or the final stage of awakening, which is the bhumi of complete Buddhahood, this then corresponds with the yoga of great non-meditation. And so actually there's a lot of detail that can be gone into with regard to each of these different yogas and how they relate to the different stages of enlightenment. But right now, of course, he won't get into that. But just to give us kind of a brief overview, and so how then the 4 yogas, the way that the 4 yogas are supported or nurtured or developed is also in uniting them with the 4 types of different conduct. So first, the yoga of one-pointedness corresponds whether this is nurtured or developed through the conduct that is that is referred to as the conduct of a young prince. So a young prince who has not yet fully grown and assumed the throne, he his conduct is such that it really accords with his level. So the food that he eats is appropriate for his age. The clothes that he wears are appropriate for his age. He does, his path of conduct accords with his capacity or his power or ability as a young prince who is not yet, like a fully grown man or a fully grown king. And so this is the conduct that corresponds with or that nurtures or develops the first of the four yogas. And so also, as it says in the Kala Chakra Tantra, a beginner shouldn't try to assume the conduct of a yogi. And a yogi should not try to assume the conduct of a Mahasiddha. And a Mahasiddha should not try to assume the conduct of the Buddha. And so in this way, the conduct should be appropriate to the level where one is at. And that helps in the development, of the qualities, at the appropriate stages. So the first one then corresponding with that of the young prince. And then the second yoga of non-elaboration, this is nurtured or developed through the yogic conduct of secret mantra. And so what defines the yogic conduct of secret mantra is mainly residing in solitary places, so remaining in solitude where there is no one else around, and applying oneself in the practice. And then the yoga of one taste is supported or developed through the conduct, the yogic conduct of awareness, the conduct that increases awareness. And then the yoga of non-meditation is supported by the conduct of Samantabhadra. So the Samantabhadra, the conduct of Samantabhadra. And so this particular Vajra statement is this 19th statement, the superior conduct of awareness practice is discipline, is dealing with the conduct that supports the yoga of one taste, which is the awareness conduct. Here it says the conduct of awareness practice, or the yogic conduct of awareness. And so we'll conclude here and have a break, and then actually the program has changed. It's different from what he had mentioned to you all yesterday. So instead, when we come back from the break, he'll teach on the final Vajra statement, and also Rinpoche will be joining us for this final session. Garchen Rinpoche. Yeah.